All right. So Mom wrote down some stuff that I'm allowed to ask you about.
Are you taping right now?
Yeah. I've been recording this whole time. You know,
All right.
just for everything.
Well, I can't say anything unless I know what you want me to
All
talk
right. So
about.
what was it like growing up?
Okay, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. I was born in 1926.
What was it like in Newark, considering now Newark is considered like a bad area?
What do I?
What was it like growing up in Newark? Since now, when we
Growing
think of
up-
Newark, it's kind of like a bad area.
No, it was more or less integrated area. There were blacks in our neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and Polish and Irish, and we all got along very well.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school with the Italians, Irish, and blacks, and we all lived close by. No one really needed a car for
Right.
anything.
And in what year did you say you were born?
1926.
So that was in the middle of the Great Depression. What was it like growing up in the Depression?
My father lost everything he ever had. At one time, my father was very wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
but it was all paper rich.
Okay.
He owned apartment houses. He owned stores. He had the first limousine that we can remember. And then during the Depression, he had to sell everything.
How did he, before the Depression, how did he accumulate everything? Where did he get his money from to start with?
Well, he owned a big apartment house in East Orange, New Jersey. Oh, there must have been maybe 50 or 75 apartments. A very wealthy section. And that was the last thing he held on to. The people couldn't pay their rent,
Mm-hmm.
and he had to keep paying the taxes.
Yeah.
So he let them live there, but that was the last thing he lost. And then during the Depression, we downsized so much. We lived in a cold water apartment.
What does that mean?
No steam heat or anything. No radiator.
Oh, you didn't have any heat.
We had nothing.
Okay.
We had nothing.
So when you went to take a shower or a bath, how did you do that?
Just hot water. Well, from the faucet, hot water.
So you had hot water in the faucet.
In the Yes, in the faucet we had hot water.
So what did you do for heat in the winter?
For winter, we had a cold stove.
What's a cold stove? I've never heard of that.
Okay, a cold stove was a big stove, cast iron, and you had to put either firewood or coal in there to heat.
Oh, did you say coal, C-O-A-L, or
Yeah.
cold, C-O-L-D?
Cold.
Coal.
Cold, yeah.
Okay. I thought you said cold.
Oh, no.
I didn't know what a cold stove was.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
So you had to use that for heat. So like a potbelly stove or yeah, like
We
a cast
cooked on
iron.
that.
You even cooked on it?
Oh, yeah. My father cooked on that. My sister and I, there was only 2 bedrooms, and there were 5 children.
So did you all just sleep on top of each other?
Yeah, my sister and I slept together until I think she was maybe 12, 13.
And then what happened?
Well, then my brother went off to the army, which gave her her own room.
So you're of 5. Where did you fall in the 5 as far as age?
I was the last.
So you were the youngest of 5.
I was the youngest of 5.
Which one was the oldest?
The oldest was my brother Henry.
Oh. The one that was a priest.
Yes. And when he went off into the seminary, that gave us a little bit more room. I had a brother named Joe. He was a good guy, but always getting into trouble. And he would think nothing of hopping a freight and going off somewhere.
Hopping a freight, like a freight train,
A freight
that you
train.
don't know where it's going,
Yeah,
and just
right.
getting on the train and wherever it
Yeah,
goes,
and
it goes.
just going somewhere.
How did he get back?
Well, getting on another freight train coming home.
I didn't know that was a thing people actually did. What year was that?
That was 31.
1931.
32.
Just how do you hop a freight train?
What?
How do you hop a freight? How do you do that?
When a freight is coming in or just ready to leave, you just jump on it. Don't you look at the old cowboy movies?
You're literally talking. He used to do. I remember Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
You're literally talking about him, like in a movie.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
just the train's
just hopping on and trying to get into one of the freight cars and stay there until someone caught him and threw him off.
And what are the places that he went?
Mostly he went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because we had relatives there. And he would go out and see them.
So he wasn't doing anything. He made it sound like he was hopping a freight train to go do something mischievous. He was just going to visit relatives.
No, he was...
Like he was an outlaw robbing freight trains.
No, nothing like that. He just wandered away. That's all. He didn't care.
What happened when he got caught?
I don't think he ever really got caught.
So he now, is this like a once in a while thing that he would do, or he would just randomly all the time? It was a regular occurrence.
This would go on every year for 4 or 5 years or 6 years.
So 4 or 5 times he.
Oh yeah. And then my relatives would pay his way to come home.
So he didn't have to hop a freight train back.
Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. If he let them, they would pay his way to come home.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes he wouldn't even tell them. He would just leave them, hop another freight train, and come home.
How did he know where the trains were going to be able to get where he needed to be?
I never hopped a freight train. I don't know. He knew where it was going. I guess if it was just going west,
He
would
just
get
got
on
on
it
and
just to
assumed it was
to
going
see
the right.
where it went. That's all.
So what were your other siblings like?
And like I say, my father lost everything, and that's when my mother died.
Mm-hmm.
When we were living in the cold water flats, we call them.
Yeah.
And I remember the night my mother died. I don't remember too much about my mother because I was too young.
How old were you?
Well, she died when I was 6 years old.
Oh.
So I don't, and not only that, she was very sick for a year and a half or so before she died.
Yeah.
So really, up until the time I was maybe 4, I didn't know that much because she was in and out of a hospital.
What was she sick with?
She died from cancer.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
They knew it was cancer even back then? Where you
Yes.
just know now
Well, I don't know if they knew that. The only thing my father would say is she has stomach trouble.
that... Oh.
And then sometimes they would say the big C.
The big C?
Yeah, they refused to mention cancer.
But they knew cancer existed.
Well, they knew, yes.
But they called it the big C.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
And I remember my sister and I seeing her in bed. She died at home.
Oh.
And we were on her bed talking to her. And then she looked at my father and she said, "Nick, it's time you put the kids to bed." So he just looked, he said, and he knew what she meant. He said, "All right." And he put my sister and I to bed. And about an hour later, we heard a lot of crying. And we knew. And my sister would say, "Mommy died." Because she was 3 years older than me.
Yeah. Now this is Aunt Rose?
Rose. She was 3 years older than me. And like I was 6. So she said, "Mommy must have died."
Oh,
And
wow.
sure enough, they laid her out in the house with no funeral parlor.
Right.
We couldn't afford it those days.
Yeah. So what year was that? That was
19... 32. 1931 or 1932.
Right. Now, the other thing that I'm curious about, you've kind of told the story a little bit, was how you and Honey met.
Okay, I was going out with her brother.
Mm-hmm.
And
how did you know her brother?
Through the neighborhood. We were brought up in the same neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And we happened to see him one day. And we just hung out together. And one day he bought a car, a used car. He paid $25 for it.
$25 for a car?
Yes. And he took it completely apart because it didn't work.
Okay.
It needed a whole
now it makes a little bit more sense why it was $25.
Okay. It needed a whole new motor. Well, it needed a motor. And we got together. He took the motor completely apart and rebuilt it. And it the body of the car was so rusted and everything that we decided to sand it down with sandpaper and painted it with a brush.
What kind of car was this?
It was a Dodge, a 19, I don't know, maybe 33 Dodge. But we painted it black with a brush. And believe it or not, that was in Newark. That car took us down to Seaside Heights and back again.
Every year?
Well,
for how long?
For maybe 2 years. Maybe a year and a half.
That's more than I would have expected out of it.
So anyhow, we were going down to Seaside Heights in his car. Now, there were more than one of us. Mm-hmm. There was, his name was John. And then we had another friend. His name was also John. And another one was Joe. And another one was Bob. Mm-hmm. So we were going down to Seaside Heights. And he said, wait a minute, let me stop home and get something. So we stopped in front of his house. And I didn't know it was his sister. She came out. And in a rough voice, where are you going? So we're going to Seaside Heights. She said, in this jalopy, you crazy? And so I looked at John, her brother. I said, who is that? He said, that's my sister. I said, a sister like her, I wouldn't want to know her. I said, what a pain in the ass she could be. Just the way she talked.
And then you ended up marrying her.
And then I wound up marrying her.
So how do you go from thinking she's a pain in the ass to... I didn't like her, but John would have us over every week playing cards. Right.
And we would play cards, and she more or less would come close to me. She'd come behind me. So she was
into you.
Yeah. She played up to me. Until
is that how it really went? Or was it is that how it actually went? Or is that just how you're remembering it?
No, this is the truth. And she took a liking to me after a while, but I still didn't like her. But she would come behind me, put her arms around my neck, you know. Oh yeah. And I said, get the hell away, you know. And eventually I became attached to her. And
what's eventually? How long did that take?
6 months, a year, a little less than a year. Yeah, I found that if I didn't see her, I missed her. You know? And there was no love between us, but just hanging out together.
Yeah.
You know? And eventually we got closer. Very closer. Very close. We said, well, we better get married.
Not even going to ask.
Let me drink. Maybe I can remember more.
Yeah, take your medicine.
Too much soda.
You want more wine?
But we'll call her Helen. Her name was Helen. Helen and I became close, but always arguing.
True to the end.
We argued from the day we met, and a year later we were still arguing. She would tell me off and not see me for a week or so, or else I would tell her off and go our separate ways. Mm-hmm. But then we found that we missed each other.
Yeah.
We always, for some reason or other, there was always an excuse to get together again.
Mm-hmm.
And we were on and off as boyfriend and girlfriend for 6 years, almost 7 years.
So how old were you when
we got married when we were 26.
So you met when you were 20?
We met when, 17.
Okay.
Wait. Yes, 17. That's, yeah.
And then you got married when you were 26.
I got married when we were 26. Well, when I was 23, I was drafted into the Army.
Mm-hmm. What was that like? Into which war?
The Korean War.
Okay, so you didn't fight in the Second World War.
Yeah, I was drafted, and that's when I got engaged to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she waited until I come out of the Army before we got married. That's where. But yeah.
So what was it like being drafted and having to go to war?
Well, I didn't want to go into the Army, but I was drafted and I had to go in.
Mm-hmm.
And after 1 year, I was a cook in the Army. And they needed cooks in Korea. So they asked me to re-enlist.
Just as a cook?
As a cook in the Army. And I wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, if you don't re-enlist, you're eligible to go to Korea in the Army.
Okay.
And so I took my chances. I didn't re-enlist, and they sent me to Korea.
Right.
And I spent almost a year, about 11 months in Korea.
As a cook?
As a cook.
So what did they want you to re-enlist for?
They wanted me to re-enlist because I was the only one in our company that knew how to cut meat. And they needed meat cutters. So they were willing to send me to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
To learn how to cut meat for the Army.
What's the difference between cutting meat for regular people and the Army?
Well, I guess different portions, And to do that, I had to re-enlist for at least another 2 years. So I asked my girlfriend at the time if she would want me to re-enlist, and she said no.
Mm-hmm.
So when I said no, that's when they sent me to Korea.
But it would have been, so you would have been away for 2 years,
as opposed to
for
4 years.
So you were away for 4 years.
No, I would have been away for 4 years if I re-enlisted.
Right.
See, but I was only away for 2 years.
Okay. And so you were a cook.
I was a cook in the Army.
What else what was that like?
It not pleasant. It wasn't good. You lived roughly in rural areas, a lot of dirt, cooking on Army stoves, little stoves. And well, the mess, the captain came over one day and he said, we have a squad of men in an area. They ran out of food and water, and they've been without it for a few days. So I'm looking for 2 volunteers to bring them food. And no one volunteered, of course.
Was this like behind like enemy lines or like?
Oh yeah. Right in the area.
Yeah.
So I took it upon myself. I said, I'll volunteer. And my mess sergeant, who was one step above me, he said, no. He said, you can't go. He said, you only have 2 more weeks to go before you're eligible to go back to the States.
Right.
So I said, no. I said, I'll still volunteer. He said, all right. He said, pick out someone to go with you. So I looked at the other cooks, and they didn't want to go.
Of course not.
So I said, I'll go alone. I'll take one of the KPs with me.
What's KP stand
A
for?
KP is a kitchen help.
Okay.
I'll take one of the KPs with me. I'll go alone. They said, all right. So we loaded up with food in coolers, hot and cold.
Okay.
And got in a Jeep and took off. And it was...
How did you know where they were?
Well, they just gave us the direction.
You said, get on this road, keep driving until you hit
going.
them?
Eventually, someone came out of the shrubbery, went like this, over here. And we went there. We had soup, food, milk, coffee, water. We had everything for them.
Yeah.
And we stayed with them for a couple of hours. And then we made our way back. And on the way, the captain said, I'm sorry, I have to go back a little bit.
That's all right.
The captain said, A company went there yesterday and they didn't make it.
Okay. So somebody already went out to bring them food.
Right.
And they didn't make it.
So on the way there, we passed this here Jeep completely blown up.
Oh.
Tires all over and everything. So the KP said, Sarge, he said, there's A company. They were blown up.
Yeah.
They hit a landmine.
Yeah.
So on the way back, we got through. We saw an enemy,
And then what'd you do?
And they didn't fire at us, and we didn't fire at them.
You just kept going.
We just kept going.
Right.
And the only thing I asked the captain was, how come they didn't fire at us? He's because they were dumbfounded. They didn't know where you were going, and they wanted to learn what you were doing.
Oh, so the fact that they had no idea what you were doing,
yeah,
they just was was what kept you safe.
Yeah. So we got back, and that's how I got the star. I got 2 bronze stars for bravery. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty crazy that you just drove,
Oh,
especially knowing that the other Jeep got blown up by a blown up by a landmine, or they shot at them and then it.
Well, landmine and shot, I guess.
And how many people were in that?
There were 4 in that.
And you made it with just 2 people.
I made it with, well, it was 3.
Okay.
It was 3. It was me, the KP, and a driver.
So you didn't drive?
No, I didn't drive.
So then when you went, why did they need someone from the kitchen or from the mess? Why did you have to go as opposed to like a normal soldier? Why did it have to be someone from? Why did it have to be a cook?
Well, because we were the cooks.
So
our job was feeding people.
Right, but couldn't you have just packed a cooler and sent it on its way?
Well,
or it was because you volunteered?
It wouldn't be someone who's on the artillery to go out and feed somebody. It'd be up to a cook to go out and feed somebody.
Did you have to cook for them once you got there, or was it just a matter of you left the supplies?
Everything was all done.
Right.
Everything was all prepared.
Right.
Was in coolers and everything. We had to dish it out.
Right.
You know. And like I say, that then a week later they told me I was going home.
And then you came home.
And then I got on a ship. There were 5,000 of us on this ship.
5,000. Wow.
5,000. The name of the ship was General Pope.
How long did it take to get?
Okay, going out there took us 16 days. Coming home, it took about 12, 13 days.
Mm-hmm.
Going out there, I got sick every day. Seasick every day. Coming home, I didn't get sick one day.
Sure, you're coming home.
That's what people say. They said it was all up here.
Yeah. So then you came home and got married.
We came home. We got married the following year, or 6 months later, really.
Mm-hmm.
And what else?
Well, the other thing Mom wanted me to ask you about was the last time, because with the pandemic and everything going on, and then I'll get into the stuff that I want to know about, all the stories of you working at a bar and delivering alcohol. But Mom wants to know about if you remember anything about like the 1918 Spanish flu.
1819 what?
The Spanish flu when you were growing up.
No.
You didn't know anything?
No.
It was done by the time
no.
you were... So how do you feel about everything going on now?
That was what year?
1918.
1918. I was born 26.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing too was when you got drafted, what was your initial reaction?
What was what?
When you got drafted for Korea the first time,
yeah.
What was your reaction to it?
Well, I didn't want to go, but I had to go. You can't say no if you're drafted.
And then, so you just go. How does that work? Because I think people now don't think about a draft at all. And the idea of like any of that, like even for me, Like, how does that even work? How do you know that you got drafted? How do you?
Well, you had to sign up when you were 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You had to sign up, and it was like a lottery. If your name come up, they called you. You couldn't say no.
Yeah.
You automatically put in either the Army or Navy or whatever.
And you were in the Army?
I was in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And I took my training in Fort Devens, Massachusetts.
And then they just ship you out after basic training?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You have to go through basic training.
Well, yeah, so you go through basic training and then you're just sent out.
Oh, yeah. Different companies,
mm-hmm.
different states, and so on.
So around the holidays, you've had a lot of stories that revolve around some of the jobs that you had when you were younger. I remember a ton. I don't remember the stories, but I remember you having a bunch of stories about when you used to deliver alcohol or work in a bar, I think it was.
No. My father delivered alcohol.
Okay.
During the Depression, just to make a few dollars.
What years?
Well, that was 1926, 27.
What years were Prohibition again?
Prohibition was, I think, around that time.
Wait a minute.
Wasn't it?
Hold on a second. I gotta Google this. Give me 1 second. Okay, years for Prohibition. All right, so Prohibition was January 17th, 1920 to December 5th, 1933. When was your father delivering alcohol?
He used to make a few dollars. He used to deliver, it was in 5-gallon cans, alcohol. He used to deliver to different companies that used to make whiskey.
But, so he was doing this when?
He was doing it.
Yeah, but when? That's the part that I'm curious about.
What do you mean when?
Well,
at night, he would deliver.
But what years?
Well, it had to be when I was born, because he used to take all the children with him.
So you used to go with him to bootleg alcohol?
Yeah. You know why? Because he said the cop wouldn't stop him because he saw a lot of children in a car. He said he took the children with him. He said, this way here, the cop won't stop me because he'll,
I was just thinking it's...
Yeah.
So you would
I'm
go
a
out...
family man.
You would go out at night with your 5 siblings will go out at night and deliver out...
Yeah. Outside of Joe. Joe was on a freight train.
Oh, yeah. He was on a freight train going to Pittsburgh. And you would all be in the car with him while he's got cans of alcohol in the back.
Yeah.
During Prohibition. He would deliver it to places that would make whiskey.
Right.
So how, maybe you can answer this, maybe you can't. How close was he to like the like, you think about that, that's how like the mob started.
Well, he probably worked for the mob. They were giving him a few dollars, but he wasn't in it.
In it, working for it.
Yeah, they would say, Nick, take the 10 gallons and bring it someplace.
Right. So he was like a gopher.
Yeah.
So he used to deliver alcohol. What kind of I'm drawing a blank on what the stories actually were from when I remember barbecues that we used to have at your house. You'd be telling stories of showing up with like crates of alcohol and wine and all this different stuff.
Crates of alcohol?
Oh shoot. You had like a bet going where somebody would bring a bottle of wine over for dinner, and then you brought over a jug of wine, and then they bought something else.
Oh. That was a friend of mine. That was after I come home from the Army.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend of mine, we called him, his last name was Luszewski, but we call him Ski.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a liquor store. Well, his father had a liquor store. And he would bring me over a bottle of wine.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more of a joke than anything else. When I saw him, I would bring him over a bigger bottle of wine. Then he would pay me a visit. He lived in South Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Then he paid me a visit, and he'd bring over a bigger bottle of wine. Until finally, at that time, my brother Joe worked for a wine company. He said, "Kid," he said, we call each other Kid for some reason or other.
Mm-hmm.
The whole family did.
Right.
He said, "Kid," he said, "we'll fix Ski up. I'm going to bring over wine." He said, "You give him the..." Well, what he brought over was, the name of it was a demijohn, but it was 5 gallons of wine in a wooden crate. So I said,
where do you get that?
well, you buy it. The clubs used to buy it.
Okay.
The Italian clubs used to buy it.
Right.
And they used to
put it in like a carafe or something like that.
And when I gave Ski that wine, we never exchanged wine after that.
So how did you get it? How heavy is a 5-gallon crate of wine?
It was heavy. It was heavy. Wasn't a crate, just 4 corners to it, a bottom, and it was all glass inside this crate.
Oh, inside was glass.
Oh yeah.
So it wasn't like a barrel where it...
Oh no. It was all glass, like a gallon jug, only 5 gallons.
What did he do with it? How long did that take you to drink? Did you?
How long did it take? I don't know. We used to drink quite a bit.
Used to?
Oh yeah.
You only used to.
Let me tell you something. I was drinking, I guess, alcohol from the time I think I was 5, 6 years old. Not drinking, for enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
But if my father had a glass of wine, I'd say, "Pop, give me a sip." He'd say, "Go ahead, take." And I'd take a sip, but it didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And then when I was 18 years old, we would go around different taverns, I made believe I was 21. I grew a mustache then. It made myself look older.
So you grew the mustache to make yourself look like
look a little older.
Did it work?
Yeah, sometime. Not all the time. But we would go around and never got drunk or anything. Just having a good time.
Did you ever get in trouble for...
No. Nope. Never got in trouble. We used to, at that time, there was a game, I think they still have it, shuffleboard.
Yeah.
All right. There were 4 of us or 5 of us that we loved to play shuffleboard. And we would go around to different taverns and challenge people on the shuffleboard. Just play for drinks,
Yeah.
Something like that.
So not the shuffleboard where it's the thing you got the...
Oh, no.
But the one, it's probably like 6 feet
about this wide.
Yeah.
Little round weights.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a shuffleboard.
Same thing, but smaller.
Yeah.
So you'd go around and challenge people and hustle people for drinks.
No, we didn't hustle them.
It sounds like you were hustling them.
Well, you play shuffleboard, yeah. You want to play a game, but we didn't play for money.
You played for drinks.
Yeah,
you hustled them for drinks.
Well,
that's what it sounds like to me.
We had a good times. And what else?
What kind of jobs did you work?
What kind of jobs?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I was mostly when I was 17, I got my first job. Being a chauffeur in funeral processions. I would drive a limousine.
Yeah.
And after that, I went into, my brother-in-law had a store. He asked me to come into the store on weekends. After that, I quit that. I went into a field of, they called it, the name of the company was Decorated Containers. We used to print vials for the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And after that ended, we printed vials for what's that? L'Oreal.
Yeah.
L'Oreal. They used to have like samples of perfume, and we would print something on the glass vial. And that's how I learned to mix different colors. And after that, I got a job with Coca-Cola.
That's the one I think all the stories have come from.
Okay. They went out of business.
Coca-Cola didn't go out of business.
The what?
Coca-Cola didn't go out of business.
No. This here Decorated Container.
Oh, okay.
business.
So that's how you ended up at Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Well, someone said, I can get you a job with Coca-Cola. And I went to work for Coca-Cola, delivering Coca-Cola. At that time, it wasn't a delivery service. You sold soda right from the truck.
Okay. So you were selling Coca-Cola.
Oh, yes. We would go out with 150 cases of Coca-Cola, and we had a delivery route, and we went to store to store selling Coca-Cola, and we got paid 3 cents for every case we sold.
3 cents.
3 cents.
How many cans or bottles were in a case of?
24 bottles in a case.
And how much did a case sell for?
80 cents.
So you can't buy a single can for 80 cents today.
I'm going back in 1949, 48 or 49. I bought my first car. It was $3,500, a Buick Super.
Brand new.
$3,500
for a brand new car.
Right.
Did it have air conditioning?
$500 more. I paid $3,500. No, I paid $3,000 for the car, and $500 more I could have gotten air conditioning. So I put the air conditioning. I was the first one in the whole area to have a car with air conditioning. And people got mad at me.
Why?
Especially my brother Joe. He said, "You got air conditioning?" He said, "Why did you buy air conditioning? $500. I said, "Joe," I said, "for $500, I wanted air conditioning." He said, "Who the hell do you think you are, Mr. Rockefeller?" He said, "Only the limousines have air conditioning. And trains have air conditioning." He said, no cars have air conditioning yet."
Yours did.
I said, "I do." That was the Buick Super, they called it.
Did he ever try to finagle the car away from you?
Oh, no. He wasn't the jealous type.
Oh, no. I mean, like, you come home one day and he just borrowed your car for the day?
He had his own car then.
Oh.
He used to buy Chevys.
Oh.
And that's why he
kind
got
of a
mad.
Buick.
That's why he got mad at me. He said, you could have gotten a Chevy for $2,500.
But it wouldn't have air conditioning.
But it didn't have air conditioning. And it was a Chevy. I had a Buick Super.
So, Joey. All right. Mom's asking me to ask you about, you went to Canada for a cup of coffee?
Well, we have crazy ideas,
So why do you drive to Canada? I got to hear this one.
Well, we had crazy ideas. It was nothing for us to say, let's go to Atlantic City for a for chowder. We would go down there, have chowder, and come right back home again. Just crazy ideas. So we used to go to a tavern every Friday. There was like 12 of us. Mm-hmm. And there was a game, an Italian game. They used to call it fingers, matching fingers.
Okay.
Like two or, So we used to go there every Friday and play for drinks. No one ever got drunk. But
I find that pretty hard to believe.
But we did crazy things. So one guy said, "Let's go to Canada for a cup of coffee." So my brother Joe and we said, "Yeah, let's go." He said, "This is a Friday." He said, We'll be back in time for work Monday,
So you didn't get drunk, but you decided to go to Canada for coffee.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, we went home and we packed a little thing, suitcase. We're going to Canada for a cup of coffee.
And what did your family think when you said, we'll be back on Sunday. We're going to go get a cup of coffee in Canada?
My father was sleeping when I got home because it was like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I said, "Pop, I need some money." He said, "What do you need money for?" I said, "We're going to go to Canada." He said, "You crazy? What's the matter with you?" He said, "Go to sleep." I said, "No, Pop, we want to go to Canada." "You want to go? Go." I said, I need some money. Well, he had a habit of leaving. See, my father was an insurance man.
Okay.
In those days, you went around to houses collecting from week to week.
Yeah. For
insurance. And he had a habit of leaving his money that he collected on a bureau.
Right.
So this was Friday night. I said, "Pop, I need some money." He said, "Well, you know where my money is. Take it and, take what you need. And hopefully we'll put it back by Monday when he has to return all that money. So I took some money.
How much did you take?
Well, my brother Joe said, how much did you get? I said, I got $30. $30 those days. We only made $70 a week.
Right.
So I took 30 from my father. How the hell was he going to replace that? He would never replace it.
No.
So it's a good thing we went down to pick up. You don't know Lenny. You know Anthony.
I know that name.
Anthony's father.
Yeah.
Okay. He was one of them. So we went down to pick up Lenny, and his mother was on a porch like this. So my brother Joe said, we're here to let you drunken bums go home. Lenny's in bed. He can't come out. Get out of here. Go. So I said, all right, what are we going to do? So we never went to Canada.
Oh, I thought you actually went.
No. We never got there. We never got there.
You didn't even make it out of the town.
You're right.
Forget. You didn't make it to Canada. You didn't make it out of town.
It's a good thing because my father probably would have lost his job. He had to replace that $30 that I was going to spend.
But even thinking about 30...
We did go to Atlantic City.
That night?
Well, no. Other times we went.
You just picked up, went to Atlantic City on a whim. Well, Atlantic City is only like an hour and a half away, though, isn't it?
No. Atlantic City was a good distance those days. There was no parkway then.
So how long did it take to get there?
Route 35 all the way down.
That had to have taken like 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, yeah.
You just saved the whole day.
Atlantic City, oh, yeah. Used to take us at least 4 or 5 hours to get there. Don't forget, you didn't travel 70 miles an hour.
No.
And you didn't have the highways that they have today.
How fast did you travel?
I was 50 would be tops.
And you were like moving.
Oh, yeah. If you went 50, 55, that was like doing 100 miles an hour now.
Was that like the speed limit at that point? Or
there was a speed limit like at 35 miles an hour.
So wouldn't you get stopped if you were... I mean, you think about it now, someone's doing 100 miles an hour down the parkway, they're going to get stopped.
Well...
You're like, well...
we were crazy. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we... was nothing. We went to Atlantic City a couple times.
And you just got chowder, and that's it.
Chowder.
You didn't gamble.
Have a drink. Come right back.
Sure.